Escape Motions announced that they were running a video competition, and one of the themes was a winter scene. Recently we had a little bit of a cold snap. It was down to something like -7, which even for a Scotsman that's a little bit on the chilly side. But it made for quite a good day, and I thought maybe pop out and see if I could get some drone footage. So after a bit of obligatory messing around, flying under a bridge and then flying around and trying not to hit myself with the drone, and then getting distracted by a rather nice low winter sunshine, I eventually got round to trying to fly around and take some useful reference footage. If it had been a bit warmer, I might have taken a bit more time and actually taken the photos with the drone itself. But given that it was pretty cold and I didn't want to be out too long, I just basically flew around and gathered the video footage. At the end of the day, 4K footage from the drone is usually more than detailed enough to be able to do some painting from it. I'm going to do a more detailed video in the future about taking reference videos using the drone, but for just now, the video, it was just a case of scrubbing through it and looking for suitable reference images that I could pull from that video. Once I had my potential images, I narrowed it down to what I thought were the three options that appealed most to me. I then had to choose between images 1, 2 and 3. Which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. I went for 2. If you would like to try and paint one of these images, I'll make a link available in the description below. You're very welcome to go and get a copy, try them for yourself, and feel free to tag me if you post your images online. So the first thing that I want to do with the image is crop it down to the right aspect ratio for the painting that I'm going to do, which is going to be an A2 size image. So I'll use the crop tool, set aspect ratio to the correct values, and then we can drag out a crop area that is the right shape and size, and that then allows me to look at how I want to crop this image. So at this point I'm thinking about things like the rule of thirds, and I want about 1/3 sky and 2/3 foreground, and I'm thinking about the main element, which is the maltings building here, and I want that roughly about the 1/3 point. So overall that gives me the right sort of composition that I'm looking for. So I'll accept that. So that should now be an A2 scale image. What I want to do is make sure that its pixel resolution is the same as what I'm going to be using when I'm working in Rebelle. So we will go in and resize the canvas, and I want to make sure that the width is 3508 and the height should then be 2480, which it is within a pixel, so that's fine. So that will then scale the image. So hopefully when I import that into Rebelle, that will then be the correct size. Looking at it from a composition perspective, there's a couple of little things that I want to change. The first thing is this hedge line going across is very horizontal, and we've got a kind of diagonal of this hedge, and what I'd quite like is this hedge to go up diagonally, just so that it kind of takes your eye around the composition. So what I'm going to do is first of all just fix that. So that should hopefully be enough to fix that part of the composition. Then the next thing that I'm looking at is this hedge across the front is a barrier to kind of getting into the picture. So what I'm going to do is actually just break a hole in the hedge just to kind of visually give you a way to actually get into the image. That's pretty rough at a photographic level, but that gives us more than enough information in terms of having structured the composition to what I want to begin to work with. So that's going to be my main reference photo that I'm going to work with going forward. So one of the challenges of working from a photograph is there can be a lot of detail and a lot of distraction to work from, so it can really help to simplify the image down. And one of the tricks I use is to use digital filters, and that lets me apply various settings so that we can potentially look at things like an edge preserving blur. And what that will do is keep the general shapes but knock out a lot of the detail and let you start to focus on the general colours. So that can certainly help to simplify it. We can take that even further, and we can potentially use a very limited colour mapping, and that allows us to look at the image if we only use a very small number of colours, in this case 9. And this allows us to try different methods for realising those colours. So it's basing the colours on the image, but it's using slightly different methods to come up with those colours, and that allows us to look at various combinations of colour palettes and see how well those might work together. What I'm looking for is a nice balance between cool and warm colours. So those 4 different methods have a slightly different feel to them in terms of the kind of balance that we've got. For me, that one's probably the one that's working most effectively. We've got nice warms and cools, and then what we can do is actually just blend those two together. So if we bring back a little bit of the edge preserving blur, we get a little bit of detail, a little bit more subtlety in the colour, so it's not quite just the basic 9 colours, but it's a nicely reduced colour palette that is more harmonious to work with. So this is now really going to be my main reference to work from going forward. Now that we've got Rebelle open, the first thing I'm going to do is to bring in the reference photo, drop that into reference images, then we'll open that up, and a couple of things that we'll do with that. So first thing is we want to show on the canvas, and just make sure that it is set to the right size, because I resized that to the pixel size of the canvas I was going to be working on, that's fitting perfectly in, so we don't need to adjust the image at all. I'm quite happy with that. And then the second thing I'm going to do is add some guides. So we just want a few guides on the image to be able to help place some of the initial strokes. If the guides aren't showing up, then we can go over to View, Show Reference Image Guides, click on that, and then we can make sure that those are coming onto the canvas, and you can toggle those on and off at any time. And if they're not showing up as much as you would like, then in this case I think it would be better if they were red. We can go to Edit, Preferences, Colour, and at the bottom of that we've got the reference image guides. I've already set the width to 3 previously, so they're a bit thicker. In this case, what I'd like is the colour to be red so that they are a bit more visible. So if we OK that, then we'll go red. That's a little too bright, so we'll just do Edit, Preferences, and I'll keep it as red, but I'll take the opacity down to 50% and try that. And that's now clear, but not leaping out too much. So all I want on the reference image is just a few of these reference lines just to help me get some of the placement working effectively. So I'll put down one for the shadow, and we'll put one for the hedge, mark out that gap, and then we'll put a couple in just to show where the main building is. And you can move any of these around, so if they're not quite in the right place, then you can just click and drag, and they really are just rough indications of where things are, so I'm not trying to be particularly accurate with these at the moment. That should give us more than enough of a hint of what's going on. So once I've got the lines set up like that, that's my reference information. So we'll close that for just now. I'm also going to bring on the other image actually as a tracing image, so I'm going to drag that in as a new layer. So this is the one that's got the simplified colours and shapes. Again, it's sized to the right size, so I don't need to drag it to the right size. We can just OK that. That's going to be the bottom layer. I'll lock it just to make sure I don't accidentally paint on it. And what I'm going to do is in the start of the painting, I'll just make that the tracing layer. So at the start I use a combination of tracing from that. I'll use some of the colours from a colour set, and I will occasionally also just pick from the photo itself. So we'll put the photo reference onto the eyedropper. So if I go onto that, then I can pick from those colours as well. So that's the three colour sources that I'll use in the first pass just to get the image going. So we'll hide that, and we can now start. I'll start reasonably zoomed out because we just want to do a really big, loose, abstract colour painting to get the general colours and shapes going. So I've come back to this after a couple of days off doing other things, and just having a look at where I've got to with it and what I want to try and do to see about finishing it off. And at the moment, it really just feels like there's a number of things around edge quality and contrast, and just a little bit more work. And then I think a little bit just to loosen things up and rework it again. I think we've got some nice textures in various bits, so maybe try and bring out a little bit more of that. And then I think just adding a little bit more looseness and effects just to kind of give an overall coherent kind of language to sort of finish it off. So that's what I'm going to try and work on over maybe the next hour or so, and see how we get on. So I think I'm fairly close to being finished with this one now. There's only a couple more things I want to add, just in terms of a few more effects, possibly a little bit kind of paint running. And then the last thing I think is just in the hedge and the foreground, just darken up and get a little bit more contrast, which I'll do with just some watercolour washes and just adding a bit more colour. And I think that's pretty much all it's going to take. So let's do that and see what we can do. So that's the final image, scaled to A2 and then printed out. So I hope that was useful, hope it was interesting. If you got any thoughts or comments, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, hopefully catch up with you soon. Thanks for watching.